So let's go forward.
So I didn't come back to church for 2.5 years.
And
I came at Christmas. I will say I came at Christmas and I came at Easter for Holy Week. Neither time did I have to talk to anybody. I didn't speak to anybody.
So you disappeared.
I disappeared.
How
I lost my entire community.
did this whole thing impact your relationship with your husband? Because obviously he's the priest.
Mhm.
You're not coming. He is not allowed to speak. You're not coming back to the church except for a couple occasions. How did that impact your relationship with him? Your relationship at home? How did that go?
It fell apart. The most hurtful part was that the people who were behind all of this were put into positions of power subsequently. And for me, that was hurtful because it didn't have to happen. And the people who were able to stop it were the clergy.
But the clergy is your husband.
Exactly.
So he didn't stop or wasn't able to stop the very people who were, for want of a better word, crucifying you.
Yeah.
And they were coming into power in the church.
Right.
The church that he heads up, co-heads.
Exactly. So in retrospect, he was trying. He was trying to stop it. But he has a limited amount of say in it. The dean of the cathedral still has more say. He's a co-priest, but the dean is still the head of the church, so to speak. And the bishop, of course, has say. So he was trying, but he couldn't do any more than he was allowed to do, so to speak. I couldn't see that.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't give him that benefit of the doubt. I couldn't.
Well, a public flogging,
that
I
far.
know. I've had a social media flogging once, and it puts you in a place. For me, I went into hiding. I didn't go back to where I had been prior. I was filled with so much shame over that, so I can only imagine what you were going through.
Yeah, and there were articles being written about me online. There's a whole corner of the orthosphere on the internet that nobody should ever go to. It's very extreme and it's very scary, and it does not represent orthodoxy. And that corner of the orthosphere came after me. And it was very clear in some of those articles and in the don't ever go to the comments section that
Believe
some
me,
of
I
those
know.
people were from our parish and were from neighboring parishes and knew what had happened. So that was coming in too and was making me want to hide even more.
And I want to interject something, as angry as I am about a lot of your story. I think we have to keep drawing the line. I think we have to keep saying, okay, I mean, I don't understand why these people who created all this drama were allowed positions of power in the church. I don't understand that part. But I keep trying to hold on to, it wasn't about the theology or belief system of the Greek
No.
Orthodox Church.
No.
It was about what happened with a group of people who
Yes.
got riled up, who got angry, who were misinformed. It was about people.
Yep. Absolutely.
And so in your story as a woman, now your marriage is falling apart.
Yeah.
I don't know what was happening in your practice as a therapist.
Yeah, that got worse too.
I mean, life
for
was
different
crumbling
reasons.
around you in everything that you had built. So what happened on the inside of you? How did you begin any kind of turn toward recovery, toward hope, toward rebuilding yourself?
Took a little while.
It's okay.
There were more things that happened after that made things worse. Not in the church. So the Hubs and I were already in a bad place after all this happened. And then there was more trauma after the beginning of 2017. Do you want me to talk about this?
I feel you pulling in. I feel the pain in you right now. And you're talking about a trauma that happened even after this huge cataclysmic public thing that had happened to you. Do you want to talk about that?
I do, because I think that it's something that people, especially women, relate to so much because it happens to so many of us, and it's never spoken about. It's never reported. It's never talked about. And it took me years to tell anyone about it because I was so frightened. I was raped by a client.
Oh my
Oh my
gosh.
God.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So-
I am so sorry. Yeah. So sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a rough one.
Were you living in your marital home at the time? Were you with your husband? But you did not
was.
tell him.
No, because it had such profound effects on me mentally,
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
because he was a client and I felt responsible for him as a client. I felt like I had failed. I felt like this is my client. I'm supposed to be caring for him. I'm supposed to be helping him. And I had so failed at that.
Gosh, I don't think that's how
Yeah.
any of us from the outside looking in would see it. I understand as a therapist, but then could you report that rape?
I was terrified to report it because he could color it any way.
To the governing board, the licensing board.
Right. And it would be my word against his. And then
So
I
you
could
were
lose
afraid
my
that
license.
that could turn against you.
Yeah.
Well, and you're already coming from this thing that so dramatically turned against you, so unexpectedly for so little.
Exactly.
So I can understand that fear being
Yeah.
huge.
So I told no one. I told no one.
You know what occurs to me, and we've talked a lot about this. You had two really safe places in your life. The church, your beloved church. You grew up in that church. It was a place of sanctity. It was the place you got up on Sundays and you sang, and it was your meditation and it was your prayer, and it was safe. And then it wasn't. And then your private practice, your office, a safe place, a place you were so proud of building as a woman and against all odds, fighting to do what you felt called to do. And then it wasn't safe. What do you do with that?
I didn't know what to do at the time because, you know, when the Hubs and I got married, we anticipated that there would be tough times in parishes. I mean, you have to anticipate that. What we didn't anticipate was that the church would actually come between us. That's something we didn't anticipate because we were so united. We were in such lockstep about our mission together.
Mm-hmm.
And we had so many conversations about how we were going to be a team. And as long as we were a team, then we could do what we needed to do. So for the church to come between us was something we never expected. The same was true for me of my practice and of doing therapy. You know, that was the first experience that I had with a predatory client. And there definitely are predatory clients out there. I've had encounters with predatory clients besides this one that, you know, you just have to refer them out. But that being my first experience with one, it felt again like it was therapy coming between me and my sanity, and like clients coming between me and therapy as my career, my safe
Yeah.
place.
No, I feel that you
Like,
lost
all of it.
all the ground
Yeah.
that you had built. And then you separate from the church. You'd already separated from the church.
Yeah.
You separate from your husband.
Yeah.
What was going on inside of you?
I was hiding. I just had, I didn't have, when something would go wrong in my therapy life that, just had me disturbed or something, or needing someplace to go, I went to the church. And when something was happening in the church that was upsetting me or whatever, I would go to my therapy place,
Sure.
and
Then they're both
they
gone.
complemented each other for me.
And then they didn't.
And then they didn't just not compliment each other, they abandoned me.
They betrayed you.
They betrayed me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had nowhere.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Did you ever stop or pause your practice after that, or did
No.
you keep going?
No, because I owned a large practice. I had a lot of therapists depending on me.
Okay.
And I was the largest income earner in the practice.
Oh, wow.
And because once we separated, I had to support myself and my child. So that was not a thing that could happen. And because if I did, I knew people would ask questions. And I was too terrified to answer those questions. And especially because he came back around. My rapist came back and tried to get into therapy with one of my colleagues.
Oh my God.
And it was very, very difficult to navigate the waters of trying to somehow, I couldn't even warn her, but trying to somehow communicate to her that, like, I didn't want him back in my practice without denying her a client, and trying to keep her safe, because what I really was worried about was her safety.
What did you do with that?
I got lucky, which
Finally.
I honestly don't believe was luck. I believe it was the Holy Spirit. She came to me and she said, I saw that this guy's name is already in our system. And she said, he said something to me that struck me as very suspicious. It was an implication about you. And she said, I don't like the guy. He's given me the creeps. And I said, I've always admired your instincts.
Mm-hmm.
I have always admired your clinical instinct. And that's all I said. And she said, yeah, I don't think I want him.
Oh, God.
And that was enough.
It's hard for me to sit here and even know what to ask you next. This story is so huge and so difficult. Everything I want to reach for just feels trite, honestly. I'm so sorry. This pain is huge. But you said something a minute ago, and we've talked a little bit about this in our pre-interview times. Here you are, this woman who's grown up in the church, and the church is your safe place. And to my knowledge, at that point, you weren't questioning your belief system.
No.
Even though this thing had happened in the church, it wasn't about your belief system in the church.
No.
And then you experienced rape in your private office. You were so proud of everything you built. But you said it was the Holy Spirit, the presence of the Holy Spirit. Tell me, let's just dial it back for just a minute, because it's just so tough. One of the places in your life we haven't covered is the fact that you yourself went to seminary. That's how you met Chris. You have a very educated belief. You have an understanding of theology and the doctrine of the church.
I love it.
And you love it.
Mm-hmm.
So with that underpinning, tell me, Where was God in your heart and in your mind, in your spirit during these horrific times?
Closer than he ever had been. I never questioned my belief.
That's a big faith.
My spiritual father always says to me, which I'm pretty sure didn't originate with him, that each person must suffer the faith for themselves. That
It's true.
we can't just be Orthodox Christian or anything else because it's handed down to us from somebody else. We have to struggle with it ourselves. We have to ask the questions. We have to have the doubts. That was not my moment of doubt. It wasn't my moment of questioning. I've questioned. I've gone through the whole suffering of whether or not God exists and all of that. I'm not an uninformed believer. I'm not a blind believer. Those moments were the moments when I really needed him.
Sure.
And the moments where I think I saw him the most.
So he was found by you in your deepest need.
Yeah.
At your darkest hour.
I don't think it was out of need, though, that I found him. It wasn't just like, I'm so desperate that I'm going to create this. It was more like, he showed up for me.
What did that look like?
It was, God will provide because he has to.
I love that.
Yeah.
So again, I keep fast forwarding because your story's so big.
Yeah.
So the rupture has happened between you and the church. You and your husband, you've had this horrific, unspeakable horror, compounding all of that. And you have a 5-year separation, basically, both from your marriage and the church. And then just tell me that beautiful little story about what began to pull you back.
It doesn't start so beautiful.
Oh gosh, I'm traumatized. I do that.
No. It ends, it gets beautiful, but it doesn't start beautiful. It started with COVID.
And that's a very interesting intersection in your story, because again, there's this collective fear, this collective grief, you know, that's compounding what's going on in everyone's minds.
Yeah, COVID was terrible. I was one of those people that thrived from it in terms of like, I enjoyed the alone time. I did really well because I was good at connecting with my clients virtually. I would just get up, do my thing, work. I had a real strong routine. That was all fine. What hit me was not being able to go to church. Even though I hadn't been, I always went for Easter.
And if I may, it wasn't just being able to go. It was that you couldn't sing. And that piece of you being silenced was as big as what was done to you by that parish community, what was done to you by that horrible man. Your beautiful voice to sing and pray was silenced.
I had lost my voice.
Literally.
I lost my voice after that rape. Everything just piled up, and I had been losing it after the witch trial, but by the time we got to that rape, it was gone.
Dr. Bella Vander Kolk says the body keeps the score. That trauma was inside you. It wasn't coming out. You weren't sharing your pain.
Right.
And the body reacted with your voice.
And that's why I needed Holy Week so badly. Holy Week is the most beautiful time in the Orthodox Church. So beautiful. We have 27 services in the span of 7 days.
Wow.
And they're not short.
And you
Not
call
short.
it beautiful.
I love them. I love every one of them. And man, let me tell you, by the time it's done, you feel like you have, we always call it the World Series of Orthodoxy. And by the time you're done, you feel like you played in the World Series. I mean, it's your body is just done. But I have always loved it, and I have always chanted it. And it was COVID, and the churches were closed, but we had the dispensation to do the services and broadcast them online with just the bishop, the priests, I think like a couple altar boys, and the chanters. And we had the chanters on the right chanting in Greek and the chanters on the left chanting in English. And I had not only not been invited to chant, and I'm a professionally trained musician and a professionally trained chanter too. But I wasn't allowed. I specifically requested to come and chant. And I wasn't allowed. I was told no. And I was told it would just be better if I didn't. And so other people were allowed to chant who didn't have as much training as I did. And I was not allowed. Chris was the one who had to deliver that message, but I'm 99% sure it wasn't him who made that decision, nor was it the bishop. But that definitely did not make things better for us.
No, I'm sure it did not.
But it was the lowest point for me. That was the rock bottom. That was I don't know what to do. I don't know how I can do this.
Did at any point all of these things happening with the church made you want to like just give up and not be involved with the church? Because what I think it's fascinating is it's a place that hurt you so much, but you able to separate so much, like what happened with your faith is here and the theology and everything that you know because you have so much knowledge and education on it with the people. So like this keeps hurting you, but you want because you want what the real meaning is. And that's what I love about your story, because I think when you're in church, you see so many people that get hurt by the people in church and they run away.
Yep.
And I love that you didn't. I love that
couldn't.
After all these years, you're still able to be there and like you wanted to go back so bad. And I love that about your story.
I can't. I just can't. I can't ever be anything other than an Orthodox Christian. I can't. I make very clear distinctions. The church as an institution, the church as theology, what we believe about God, the church as the conduit of God, who brings God to us, which is the ark for us to God, and the church as people. Mm-hmm. Those are very, very different things.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The church as people hurt me. The church as ark to God and through which God comes to us, that's essential. I can't not have that. That's how I'm able to access God.
I love that.
I mean, I pray at home by myself too, but the sacraments.
But you need that community and you need that place, yes.
The church is theology. It's how I understand. Yeah. The church is institution. I don't love everything that the church says. That's why I advocate in the church for LGBT inclusivity, for women, for whomever. And I travel all over the world and speak about LGBT inclusivity.
I wasn't ready to go there because I was waiting on the music story that I love so much as a musician.
And I haven't finished it yet, but
I do want to, I mean, that's profound. That is your redemption story. and some of it came through this gorgeous musical piece. But the fact that now 5 years, no, this is 24, so 9 years, 8 years since this all happened, you now advocate for these groups, that your advocacy for these groups that many years ago became your torture. I am so proud of you as a human being, as a woman, and you were able to put your marriage back together.
Well, so here's the this can only be God. The colleague that brought me into a lot of the advocacy work and asked me to start speaking, he was a childhood friend of Chris. His father was Chris's spiritual father.
Oh.
And on Holy Friday night that year during COVID, when I was at my lowest point and didn't know what to do, I was like, I can't watch the services at the cathedral at our parish. I just can't. It's too painful. So I watched his church, because he is a beautiful chanter. And he sounds a lot like his father, who I loved very much before he passed away. And I texted him, which we're not supposed to really text in church, but we can make an exception. I texted him and told him that I was watching and how much I always have loved his voice. And I saw him during the broadcast look at his phone and read my text and smile. And he texted me and said, I miss you. I wish you were here chanting with me, because he knows I chant and he's heard me. And that was what?
That was the opening back. Yeah.
That was a God moment for me.
The power of music pulling you back into yourself, into your place in the world.
And at that moment, at home, I started chanting with them.
Good for you.
I love that.
Absolutely good for you.